Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name's Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and I hope you're all having a great Tuesday afternoon, evening, or even potentially Wednesday morning, wherever you are. If you are tuning in live today, let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from in the chat. We've got Mariana and Matt Ray and Chris and Karen and Mercurial. I probably butchered that. I apologize. Ankita and Sam, Islam, great to see everyone. Rachel, Ella, great. Joyce says, posted my challenge design in Discord. I appreciate that. I love seeing people tackle these challenges before I even go live. It's wonderful. Megan's in the house, Boop Squad, Laura, and Marsha from Toronto, my hometown. Great to see people from Toronto and Canada. Silene, Auckland, New Zealand. How you doing over there? It must be Wednesday, I think, probably. Chris from Colorado, Daniel, Andrea from DC. Great to see all of you. All right, so day one of the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. And as I teased yesterday, we got something new and special today. And I think some of you are going to enjoy this and appreciate some of the new things that we're kind of throwing in there from time to time. So let me hop over to my screen. And here's the landing page, behance.net/challenge/XD. Head on over here. Get all the information about the daily challenges. And as I explained yesterday, every day you're going to receive one of these challenges Monday to Friday, except the first Monday, which was yesterday, where we kicked off the stream. And then you can join us in our community chat, which I'll show you in just a moment. You can join me daily, Monday to Friday, on Behance, same time, same place. And then just like, who was it? I forgot the name. Who was it? No, well, hold on. I'm going to find it. Maybe I can't find it. Oh, there we go. Joyce. Just like Joyce did, you can share your work in Discord or on Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge. However, again, we're doing something a little bit different today. So let me hop over to Discord. And here is the Creative Challenge channel in Discord. And right down here, Gus posted that for challenge number 1, I'm so excited about this because we always love shaking things up a little bit. We're going to be running the XD Designers Spotlight. And for this challenge only, so for day number 1, for the landing page, which I'll talk about in a moment, what you're going to want to do is share your work with the keyword XD Creative Challenge. A little bit different than usual, but what we're going to be doing is Matt Ray, who is in the chat, is going to be interviewing one of you who produces a very unique, interesting, beautiful design based on today's challenge, which again is to design a landing page, which you can see right here. So join us in Discord, get all the information. There's also a link to the rule, so check that out. Hey Alice, welcome. And like I mentioned yesterday, stick around after this. Alice and Sid are coming up with Doodle Therapy, always a fantastic stream, so stick around for that. So hop into Discord, have a good time, ask questions, share your work like Joyce has been doing, and a lot of you have been doing, which is great. And on this page, on the Behance Daily Creative Challenge page, here's the challenge for today. Landing page. Design a web-based landing page on a topic of your choosing. And I want to stress that. I'm going to be designing a financial-based landing page today. If you're familiar and comfortable with Adobe XD, go crazy. Design something for Animal Crossing or knitting or space, aliens, whatever tickles your fancies. Design something interesting and unique, have fun with it, and try using background blur. I'm going to show you that in a moment. One other thing you may have noticed if you've already grabbed the starter file is we've improved the process quite a bit. We started off in Dropbox, moved to CC Libraries, but now watch this. Click on Getting Started. It's going to take you to this page. You're going to open up CC Libraries, CC Desktop is going to open. It's going to download that file directly, and then it's opening on my other monitor, but it's going to open the file directly for you. So you don't have to do anything extra. You just click on that link. It's going to open it, download it. You're good time, right? All right, so let's dive into things. We're going to have a lot of fun today. There's also some information inside of this template for this particular challenge. Again, only on challenge number 1, but make sure to use the keyword XD Creative Challenge when you're sharing. All right, some inspiration, and this one has a little bit of a background blur. We are definitely going to be exploring that. So let's hop over to the landing page artboard right over here to the right, and we are going to get designing. And since this is more geared towards beginners, I do want to really start explaining some of the things that we're going to be doing as we progress over the next 2 weeks. So what I want to start to do is I want to just change up the artboard color just a little bit to give it a little bit of a fun color, right? So I've got the artboard selected, and you're going to notice over to the right, this panel over here is your properties inspector. So we've got our appearance section down towards the bottom, and right now it's set to a white fill. So I'm going to click on that, and I could change it to any of these colors if I wanted to. There's a 16 million colors or something like that, but I want to change it to a linear gradient just to get a little bit fancy. And I'm going to change the direction of this gradient to go nice and diagonal, just like that. And I might want, maybe for the middle color, somewhat of a darker shade, something like that. We're going to add additional stop right about here. So we're going to go for a somewhat darker shade right about there. Hey Cornell, welcome. Yeah, Laura, that is a great update. Streamlines the process. We've been working hard behind the scenes to make sure that it works nice and seamless. And then maybe at the top, we can grab the eyedropper, sample this, but maybe introduce a little bit of additional color, like a little bit of pink in there. Just like that, right? Perfect. Very subtle, but it's going to work. Now, over to the right, we may want to introduce maybe a little bit more color, like a nice vibrant blob of some sort, right? So I'm going to grab my Ellipse tool from the tools bar, which is far over to the left, and I'm going to hold down my Option key so I can draw this out from the center, and I'm also going to hold down my Shift key. This will allow me to create a perfect circle. So I'm going to drag this up just like this, make it nice and large, right? And just move it off to the side, somewhere right about there, right? And just like I did with the artboard, I can also change the fill color of this particular ellipse. So I'm going to go for another linear gradient. And of course, you can do a radial gradient if you choose. And this one, maybe at the top, it's going to be a little bit of a blue. And towards the bottom, we may want to shift that color towards the purples, just a touch, right? You don't want to go for a very drastic gradient. If you do something like this, it's going to be a little bit too much. So a little bit of purple, maybe a little bit of pink in there. It just adds this nice feel to this circle, right? Just like that. And of course, like the artboard, you can change the direction if you need to as well. Beautiful. All right, so our landing page is coming together, right? All we've done so far is we have changed the background color and we've added a circle. That's about it, right? But we want a few additional things to really make this artboard pop. And by the way, you can also drag out some guides. So if you're really particular about how things line up, you can just drag out a guide from this invisible area over to the left and at the top as well. So I can drag one out. Let me zoom in here, just like that. Let's say 72. It's a pretty nice number. And I can drag one all the way to the other side as well. And let's go for 72. Beautiful. All right, so we've got our ellipse and we have our artboard. But now we might want some text to kick off what exactly this service or landing page is for. So I'm going to grab my text tool, again, over to the left within the properties within the tools panel. That's what it is. And I'm simply going to either click or drag. Either one will work, but if you do want to constrain your text to a specific area, you can just drag just like this. And over within the properties inspector, you're going to notice we have a bunch of different options. We have our fixed width, we have our fixed height, and we have our fixed size. Some people are congratulating Daniel. Let's see. Just wanted to thank you. The last time I was in a challenge, I was unemployed, and thanks to what you did, I got hired. Daniel, that's amazing. This is why I love running these challenges. And I'm starting to get emotional because, I've run a bunch of them. Andrea, Jesse, a lot of people have run these challenges. And we see comments like this all the time. So Daniel, that is amazing. So congratulations to you. Give Daniel a bunch of claps, clap emojis inside of the chat. So I'm going to make a few changes to this. And let's go ahead and just start typing. Let's say money really does grow on trees. Really. Something like that, right? And of course, you can continue working on your properties over here. I'm going to make this nice and large. That might be a bit too large. 60, 58, that looks pretty good. I can adjust the line height if I want to, but I'm pretty happy with the way that's looking. And by the way, I am going with the Josephine Sans typeface. Fantastic typeface. Has a little bit of a style to it, which I'm really digging. All right, so we've got our text right there. There's all the congrats for Daniel. Good job, Daniel. All right, so we've got that looking pretty good. Of course, I can adjust the weight if I needed to, semi-bold, bold, but I think bold is looking pretty good. And then I may want an additional text layer. You know what, maybe we'll get to that in a second. I do want to make sure we get to some of the fun stuff. So right down below is, we may want a button or 2 buttons, for example. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool from the tools bar and drag out a rectangle just like that. And maybe for this one, because we're going, futuristic, fancy, whatever term you want to call it, I'm just going to round out the corners completely. So I can grab any of the dots on the inside and drag those in just like that. And just to kind of keep in, that bluish purple range, what I can do is I can start sampling some colors. So I can press the I key on my keyboard to grab my eyedropper and maybe just sample this purple down here. And that could work. Of course, I could tweak it as I'm going just to make sure that it really stands out from that background. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to talk more about assets in the future streams, but I may want to just jump into my assets panel, which is right down here. Sorry, it's the libraries panel now. And just make sure I'm adding these colors to my assets. So at any point in the future, I can very easily make changes and it'll propagate throughout the entire design. Now with my text tool one more time, I might want to type out sign up. This will be our main call to action. Now, of course, this is way too large, right? So I'm going to grab the handle at the bottom and just pull that down. Let's try 24, see what that looks like. I'm going to preview. Command and Control return. That looks pretty good right about there. I'm going to bump this up to bold. All right, so I have my button looking pretty good. There's 2 things I want to do to this button to make my life a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and select both layers that make up this button, use a marquee selection. I'm going to turn this into a component. Again, you can do that in your libraries panel, or you can do that within your properties inspector over to the right where a component section is. Either or, Command and Control K, whatever, it all works, right? So you now have a component over here that you can use very easily by dragging onto your document. We're going to talk a lot more about components later on in the week. I'm also going to enable padding. And what's cool about padding is that this will allow me to dive in here and make changes to this button, and the background will automatically resize. And I think during week 2, we're going to talk a lot about padding and stacking. So I'm not going to go too deep into it. But another thing a component will allow you to do is it will allow you to create additional states, including hover, which we'll talk about soon. But I'm going to create one more new state, and this might be my outline state. So with that selected, I'm going to dive in here. I'm going to turn off my fill, set a border. Let's go for, let's say, 4 pixels. And just change this to explore, right? And now what I can do is I can duplicate this button over to the right. I'm just holding down my Alt or Option key, dragging it over. 16 pixels looks pretty good. And I can change to the outline state, just like that, right? And now I have 2 buttons on my landing page. Looking pretty good. Let's move this on up a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Now, at the top of this landing page, let me actually keep these guides on. I may want a simple icon. And usually I would make my own logo or icon. But for now, just because, we're doing things scrappy, at least for this stream, I expect all of you to do much better than me. I'm going to hop into my plugins panel. And I do have the Icons for Design plugin installed. And I'm simply going to look up Wallet. There we go. And let's go ahead and choose this wallet here. This looks pretty good. And I'll just pop it right about here. Make it a little bit larger and pop it right there. I'm going to change the color just for now. I'll change it to white. All right, that looks pretty nice. Now, to set up what we're about to do, I may want to add some additional elements that are kind of floating on this landing page just to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to basically start using a few additional ellipses. So I've grabbed my ellipse tool, shortcut key E. I'm going to drag one out right about here. And maybe for this one, I might have some colors inside of my assets from this file that I might want to start applying. One down there looks pretty good. Maybe this one will go for more of an orange color. I'll make that a little bit smaller, right? Just to give the landing page a little bit more of an interesting feel to it. Make that quite a bit larger, pop it there. That looks pretty nice. And then one more. This one we may want to get a little bit more fancy with. So I'm going to apply another linear gradient. And then for this one, we might want to go maybe blue at the bottom And you got to be careful with your gradients because they could interact negatively with the shape in the background. But I think, once we add in these colors, that looks okay. And most of this, just to kind of spoil a little bit, most of this is going to be covered up by an object we're about to place on top of it. And we can always make changes to this a little bit later on. All right. So we've got our landing page looking okay, right? It's not the greatest looking landing page, but it's missing the main feature of this particular service, which is a credit card, right? So here's what we're going to do. With our rectangle tool, again, over in the tools panel to the left, I'm going to drag one out just like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then round out the corners a little bit. So I'll go for about 24. And you can do that also within your properties inspector over to the right. All right, so we're going to keep it at that. And that's looking pretty good. Now, I'm just going to decrease the opacity just for now. We'll get to the fancy stuff in a moment. But I do want to add some text on this credit card to make it look a little bit more interesting. So with my text tool, I'm going to type out just a bunch of numbers. I think there's 16 numbers in a credit card, something like that. Right? I'm going to make this a little bit larger. And I think the typeface I'm going to be using is Factoria. Right over here. It's an Adobe font typeface. And let's go for medium. So we've got that looking pretty good. Right? Those are our numbers. And then down at the bottom, we might want to put the person's name. I'm just going to put Awesome Designer for now. And I'm going to go back to Josephine Sans for this one, right? And I might want, down here we can choose all caps, all lowercase, title case. Maybe go for all caps. And let's bump this up to about semi-bold. That looks pretty good, right about there. Perfect. And there's some additional information over to the right, specifically the expiration date. So I'm going to just type out, what month is it? I don't even know. I think it's 12, right? It's December. Today's December 1st. So 12/20. Let me zoom in so we can really see what's going on. And then type out valid through, whoops, I can't spell today. I can never spell. Maybe this will be all lowercase. Adjust the line height. Right? Or maybe it'll be all uppercase. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. Make it smaller, just like that. And I can maybe bump this or change this over back to Factoria, just so it has a little, I don't know. What do you think? Maybe? Possibly? I'm not sure. I think it could work. Yeah, I think that probably works a little bit better. And I'm going to bump this down in size just so they're kind of around the same size, or at least height-wise. It's not perfect, but I think it'll do. All right. There we go. And of course, this credit card right now is not looking that exciting, but it will start to look a little bit more exciting in just a few moments. We're going to get fancy, as we always do, right? All right. Choice says, should make it expire later than 12/20. Yeah, probably. I probably should. All right. Perfect. So, and then one more thing we're going to add is we're going to add a little bit of a chip at the top. And we're not going to spend too much time designing this chip, but for now I'm just going to add an area like this, and maybe we'll add a little bit of a gradient. Just to add a little bit of a silver feel to it, right? So the top left we'll keep at white, and then we'll add a little bit of a gray right about there, and we can also add a bit of a border on the inside, just so it kind of separates it. It's there. It kind of works. It's not my favorite chip in the world, but it'll do. That'll do, pig, right? All right. So that's looking pretty good. And then maybe at the top, just to wrap this up, I'm just going to type out Adobe XD. Just like this, and position it somewhere right about there. All right. So here's our credit card, right? It's looking okay. It's not the greatest looking credit card. If you decide to go the financial route for your particular challenge entry, I would hope you spend a little bit more time than I have. But we're going to run with this. One thing I want to do is turn this whole thing into a component, just because I might be using several of them throughout my design, and I might want to keep those up to date. And someone's asking, do you think it's a good idea to use third-party illustrations and save time? Absolutely, if you have access to them. Of course, if you're doing this for commercial purposes, then you'll want to make sure that you have the rights to use it. But for things like this, if you're just working on challenges, go for it. Knock yourself out. So I've got all the objects selected. I'm going to go ahead and press the plus button beside component one more time. And now I have my credit card. But like I mentioned, I want to get a little bit fancy with the way this credit card looks on this page. So I'm going to dive into this component, and I have the background layer selected. And I've done a terrible job at naming my layers, so just don't even look over there to the left in my layers panel. It's just ugly. But with this selected, I'm going to actually turn on a background blur down at the bottom, right down here in your properties inspector. I'm going to turn that on, and all of a sudden, things are looking pretty interesting, right? You notice how it's interacting with the layers behind it. It's just looking fancy. I can turn on a border just to add a little bit of a outline. Maybe I'll add in a little bit of color too, just so it kind of pops a little bit, right? We've all heard, make it pop. And this is how you make it pop, folks. Just like that. And it looks pretty good. Now, to take this up even one more notch, we can utilize 3D transforms, one of the newer features in Adobe XD, which is right here over to the right within the Properties Inspector, or Command or Control T. I'm going to turn that on, and this will allow me to just rotate this card just like that, right? I can also bring it forward in space. And again, it's all interacting with the objects behind it. Doesn't that look really fancy? Someone's asking, do I need to use only that color? Absolutely not. You can use whatever colors you choose, whatever typefaces you choose. You can even use Comic Sans if you really want to. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Try it. See what happens. And it doesn't have to be a financial landing page. It could be something for gaming, or it could be, I'm just looking around my desk, water. I don't know. It's not very exciting, but you can do that, right? Do whatever you want. Have fun with it. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit, and maybe I'll want one more credit card in the back. So I'm going to duplicate this credit card, Command and Control D, and this one I'm going to push back a little bit. Now you can't see it because I kind of pushed it back, but if I bring it down like that, I can now rotate it. I can adjust the rotation or the transformation again, just so I have these two cards kind of floating on this design, right? Look at that. Isn't that just adds a whole new direction? I think everyone just heard the Comic Sans joke, possibly. There's like a 15-second delay between when I say something and when all of you hear it. So I don't know what you're all reacting to. Is this being recorded? It is, and it'll be available on Behance and YouTube immediately after it's finished. All right, so it's looking pretty good. And I might want to just make a few changes, and then possibly, just to wrap things up, add a little bit of maybe another button up here. Now, of course, this purple is not going to sit well with the blue in the background. So I might want to just change this. I'm going to dive in here, show my guides. I might want to just change this background to white. And then for the text color, sample one of these blues, just like that. And what's cool is because I used the component, I use an instance of this main component, even though I made all these overrides, I changed the background color, I also changed the color of the text, I can still go to this main component, which is the one with the solid diamond. And if I needed to make changes to the structure, maybe I don't want the rounded corners anymore, I just want to straighten them out, right? This one changes as well. A lot of benefits to using components. All right, don't you think these circles colors are taking more attention than the credit card? It's possible. And again, this is a very quick stream. We've designed this in about 20 minutes. I totally expect all of you to spend a little bit more than 20 minutes to make sure that your design makes a little bit more sense than mine does. But good call. So I'm going to add a few links. Let's say features. Let's go ahead and change the color. And what I want to do for this, and we're going to talk more about stacks later in the week, I'm going to pop this into a group, Command and Control G, call this links, and I'm going to turn on a stack within the Properties Inspector. You definitely don't have to use this if you're brand new to XD. It may make your life a little bit easier, but I will talk more about stacks and explain it a little bit more in depth in a future challenge. And now I can just duplicate some additional links out, right? And this will be pricing and maybe about. Whoops, that says Adobe. I'm so used to typing Adobe. And I can space these out quite a bit, just like that. Maybe these need to be a little bit smaller. And there we go. We've got some links looking pretty good. Perfect. All right, so let's take a quick look. So we have our landing page. Again, it's not the greatest landing page in the world, but for 20, 25 minutes or so, I think it does the job. And we did add a fancy looking background blur, which I would love to see all of you utilize in your challenges, just to give a little bit of depth, a little bit of fun, playfulness to your landing pages. But that's about it. Again, if you are participating in today's challenge, we're doing something new. XD Creative Challenge. Use that hashtag on Behance and have fun with it. Knock yourself out, right? All right, so that's going to do it. A big thank you to everyone who has joined me in the chat today. I'm going to be back tomorrow with day number 2 of the Daily Creative Challenge. Stick around. Alice and Sid are coming up with Doodle Therapy, and I will see you all next time.